ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. I'm delighted to see so many of you came. You're expecting, I suppose, a good read. I don't know what you'll think about it, but it's put together and you have it now. It's something that I would have been contemplating for a good part of my life. More so in recent years as I was getting older. When I was young, I listened to a lot of stories in the countryside where I was born. I listened to old men telling tales, and I often wondered as I got older why they hadn't been recorded or nobody bothered about them. And I always hoped that somebody would come along and write them down, but nobody never came. And so in the twilight years of my own life, I decided to do something about it. I started maybe thinking seriously this about 1980 or thereabouts, and I made tapes from quite a lot of older people. And I started with my own father, and I made 2 tapes from him. First one was about the family tree, and the second one was about the history in the Capri area. And then he told me to go to Henry McNally, who lived out in Turkallen and who had been born up in Carrickmcgrath. So I went to Henry, and I found Henry was a very old man. He had been born about 1880, and he had quite a good memory, but he wasn't a very good subject for recording because he had no teeth in his voice. He had a very weak voice as well. And there was 3 of them lived in the house. There was John, Joe and Henry and Annie. And everything went all right for about 15 minutes. And then they contradicted something Henry had said. And I thought there was going to be a whole row. And that was repeated for the duration of that particular taping session. And so it took about 4 hours to do the 2 sides of the tape. So then later, on the 17th of January 1990, I recorded Michael McGinty. He was a draper here in Ballybofey. He had a tremendous amount of knowledge, but he was very careful. He didn't want to say anything that might offend somebody in later times. So he gave us some useful information about the town, because I didn't know much about town life. And then, on the 19th of January 1990, I got a record from Cassie McNulty in Mullindrate. Cassie was a lovely old woman. She was a bit late when I got to her. She was 96 or 7 at that stage. But she'd been born over in Dreenan, and she was one of the last people to go to Dreenan school. She told me she lived beside the Johnsons of Summerhill, and that they were lovely people, and they gave a lot of presents to all the neighbours at Christmas. She remembered the bleach screens in Dreenan as well, and she had very vivid memories of that particular area. The next man I recorded was a neighbour of my own, Paddy Long of Capri. Paddy was a famous character, as you know, and he was very forthcoming with all the information. But then when he got to Barnesmore Gap, strange as it may seem, he seized up, and he wasn't prepared to reveal any information about the robberies and the cruelty of Barnesmore Gap, because he says both the perpetrators and the victims, their successors, would be living in the area still, and he didn't want to offend any of them. So that was Paddy. I got a lot of information about Lochmorn and the water scheme and all that from Paddy. And the next man I talked to was Sam Wilson on the 9th of August 1990. Sam was a man, a lot of people would have remembered him with his bicycle and his pipe, and he had time for everybody. He lived in a little house up in the back leas. He had been a soldier of the First World War, and he had an honour from the Queen. He had the MBE, and you wouldn't think he had anything to talk to him. But he was a very articulate man, very knowledgeable, and very forthcoming with all this information. So I'll be very grateful to Sam for what he gave me. The next man was a neighbour of my own again, Ernie Key of Capri. I recorded Ernie on the 14th of February 1999. He was a good subject too. The only thing, you had to keep a rein on him because he would have told you lies now and again. Jack Gallagher, I talked to him on the 28th of December 2000, and Jack was a wealth of information about the towns. He told it to you as it was. There was no holding backs. If he didn't know, he didn't say so. He didn't pretend to know. And then finally there was Edward Boyle from Corgary, who gave me a lot of information about Trustlaw and the great industry in Trustlaw, how it fed so many mills. It was a wonderful setup. That the water from the same law repeatedly powered mills all the way from there right down to the river near the River Finn. And then there was Mimi Quigley and Douche, who point blankly refused to be taped at all, so I recorded her memoirs and all the information about Douche. So I would like to thank everybody who helped me in any way, for the people who loaned me photographs, and then I would like to particularly thank Conor Malone, who edited the book, who helped me in so many ways with the book, and it was a pleasure working with him at times. It was difficult at other times. Conor comes from that area down, great farming country down around Waterford and South Kilkenny, but he didn't know anything about our farming terms. He didn't know about kibbing potatoes, or turkey stations, or setting of eggs, or lapping hay, or trampcocks, or handcocks. He didn't know anything about that at all. But I would say now, when we're finished, he might be the best informed guy in the hall about all those terms. To my own daughter Angela, who read the script and who corrected it, I would like to say thanks to her, and to my grandchildren, Caitlin, who provided some of the designs for the back of the book, and Owen helped me every time the computer went astray or broke down. So that's about it all. I would like to thank too Georgina Thompson. She's in the hall. I got some lessons from her on the computer, and it got me through that particular book. I was able to type it all myself. So that's about it. The publication of the book, it's not grant-aided in any way. I bear the total costs myself, and when I've recouped those costs, any benefits accruing after that will go to the Donegal Hospice. So I think that's about it all. Thank you.